All right, welcome in a March 24, 2025 edition of the BloodHorse Monday podcast. He's Sean, I'm Louie. Thanks for making us the start of your horse racing week. We have 200-point preps in the books. On the Derby side, certainly one on the Oak side as well. I had a 50-pointer in the Bourbonette Oaks as well. You and I at Turfway Park this weekend.
I'm glad we didn't blow away while we were up there.
The wind tunnel that they have created at Turfway Park is a problem. And I don't know who to talk to about it. I'm not at all sure they can do much about it. But yes, quite the wind tunnel on Saturday up at what ended up being a great day of racing there at Turfway Park.
The weather did turn out very nice aside from the wind.
Look, I joke all the time. You get a little bit of college football with horse racing. You just got to deal with the elements, and it is, you follow your team and you go where you got to go. Throw on an extra jacket, kids. You'll be okay. All the suntan lotion, that kind of stuff. But we want to go to Louisiana first for our replays. And Sean, we asked, I had Jason Beam on a different show a couple weeks ago. I said, when do you really start to dial in on these? I asked Travis Stone the same question. Travis said the 100-pointers, and that was a little surprising for a guy that works at Churchill, called the Virginia Derby, etc. But that's what he said. Beam was like, if I get to the 50s, I start to really pay attention. So I think it was the Risen Star. Yeah. He kind of gave that example. When does Sean start, and why is it the Iroquois?
Well, it's the Iroquois because I just want to get to the Derby as quickly as possible. So that's what I start paying attention to. But the big thing with the 100-point races is this is what really starts separating the men from the boys. I feel like this is when you can really kind of get the idea of what these horses will look like in the Derby itself, because you do start seeing the distances get longer. Mile and 3/16 in the Louisiana Derby. We had the mile and an eighth in the Jeff Ruby and most of the other preps along the way. So I think this is really when you get to kind of see that audition for what the Derby is going to unfold into.
Of course, we have two more 100-point races this coming weekend. One in South Florida, the Florida Derby. Of course, the Arkansas Derby will also be run this Saturday. We'll preview those to close the show. But let's head to Louisiana. John Dooley on the call of the Louisiana Derby stretch run here. 4 horses involved in this one.
The front side, Vassimo, as they straighten away. Instant replay is moving from out of the backfield, but it's Built, and Built has taken the lead here for Jose Ortiz. It's Built in front. John Hancock has given way. Right there is Chunk of Gold between horses, and on the outside, Tiztastic as they come past the 16th with Joel Rosario. It's Tiztastic now pulling clear from Chunk of Gold. Instant replay, Tiztastic on top of the Louisiana Derby. Tiztastic won by just over 2 from Chunk of.
So Tiztastic gets it done, enjoys the added amount of distance, and certainly the longer stretch there at Fairgrounds. One of the things, it's very difficult. You got the final fractions theory and these different things that come around. The Jenny Reeses of the world trying to tease out who it is that's going to be able to get the added distance here. One of the things we don't have to ask is about the Louisiana Derby winner, because they go the mile and 3/16. It's only half a furlong different from the Kentucky Derby itself. 6 weeks out, though. Anybody in here get you going? I know you were on Chunk of Gold before this race.
Yeah, and I like the way that he ran in this spot too. He kind of sat in behind the pace. It was a little quick at the beginning of the race. He still was able to make a run. Just glad to see those connections make it to the Kentucky Derby. Ethan West, the trainer, that's got to be a huge thing for them. Tiztastic, I was just happy to see that kind of bounce back performance. He's one of those horses that's been always like kind of just missing on some of those Derby prep races. He finally breaks through after having run 5th in the Rebel Stakes up at Oaklawn. I think getting away from Oaklawn was the right move here. It gave him the longer stretch to make that run. We've seen those races at Oaklawn. A lot of the, Cole Battle went wire to wire in the Smarty Jones, Speed King in the Southwest. Mataket Road almost went wire to wire in the Rebel, and Cole Battle was able to run him down. You've been seeing that speed holding. I think shifting him over to Fairgrounds with that longer stretch was definitely the right choice.
It's an interesting point by you, because, we had just assumed good horse is going to run well almost anywhere, but you're right. There are setups. There are different things. We saw earlier in the card, maybe not the best setup for a Sierra Leone type, for example. We just assumed the long stretch would really work for him. So to get this kind of, this kind of battle in the stretch was really interesting. We'll talk to trainer Brad Cox in a couple of minutes about his trainees running 3rd and 4th in this one as well. So please stay around with us for that. But, just Tiztastic on top here. An interesting one, because I didn't, I haven't watched the gallop out yet. I'd like to see where he was on all of that. He looked a little tired at the end, but frankly, it's the furthest he's ever gone. He's only ever going to go a 1/16 of a mile longer in his entire career, right? And so I'm not going to hold that against him just yet, but I thought overall, a solid top 2. I don't know that I saw the Derby winner in that race, though.
Yeah, I could agree with that. But at the same time, these are 3-year-olds that are developing. I remember talking to Steve about Tiztastic last year as a 2-year-old, and he was talking about how he was just a little immature. That was part of the reason why they ended up in the Street Sense Stakes going back to the dirt instead of going out for like the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf off the wins at Kentucky Downs, because he didn't think he was necessarily going to be able to handle the shipping and the flying out there. He didn't think he was mature enough for that yet. So the fact that he comes out, he gets this big win, that to me just shows that he's starting to come along. Maybe he did look a little tired to me, just like to you coming down the stretch there. Yep. But he's going to build off of that. Correct. And maybe we'll see a better performance next time.
It's interesting too, because you talked with Steve Asmussen about this horse in the fall. He was really high on his talent.
Yes,
it was purely a mental and maturity kind of thing for that. So yes, I'm with you on that part. Interesting, of course, because we do get those top 2 having at least 50 points, probably good enough to be in the starting gate this coming first Saturday in May. But yeah, a couple of interesting ones, and don't forget the second placers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You might get a Mystic Dan, you might get a Mage, you never know, out of these 100-point preps. Let's head up to the one that you and I were at, which was, of course, just up the street in Florence, Kentucky, at Turfway Park. The Jeff Ruby Stakes, the other 100-pointer on this. Tony Kalo on the call.
They're going to Final Gambit, and he's not joking. California Burrito has come away with the lead at the top of the lane in the Jeff Ruby, and Jacoso is chasing after him, and Maximum Promise is hitting his stride. It's California Burrito, Jacoso. Here comes Final Gambit to the far outside, rolling home like a good thing. Check out Final Gambit and Luan Machado. They win the Jeff Ruby Stakes going away.
Again, we'll talk with Final Gambit trainer Brad Cox in just a couple of minutes. But look, on a day, frankly, that started with front runners dominating the day, it slowly became a day where either locals like Luan Machado, who know that course in and out for sure, but we also saw Frankie Dettori pick off a stakes race from an off-the-pace kind of run. Jocks seemed to figure out that track as the day went on. Very windy, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But nothing wrong with how Final Gambit ran this race. We always talk in these cases, and we'll ask Trader Brad Cox about this. Is that style one that we can get a winner in the Derby out of? Because look how far back this horse is in this field. But if he's willing to move to the outside like that and be alone on the outside, that could work in the Derby too.
Yeah.
Right. And so it will be interesting to watch him move forward. I thought Flying Mohawk and he both ran really good races. A little bit of rub as we got into the stretch there for sure. Flying Mohawk kept his stride, no problem. But just, number one, distance ain't going to be a problem for this horse.
No,
right? Final Gambit looks totally fine going to 10.
Yeah, I asked Luan Machado about that in the winner's circle right after the race, and yeah, this distance is not going to be a problem for this horse for sure. Perfect ride by Machado, I have to say too. Yep. He was able to save ground where he could going into the turn. He swung way out wide as they were exiting the turn there to find somewhere to run and really just give this horse a nice open lane to unleash that stride and come get everybody. I always like seeing with these deep closers, sometimes I get a little cautious of the ones that like just get up and they just win by a neck. But I like seeing a horse like Final Gambit who gets there between the 8th pole and the 16th pole and then strides away and he pulls away. Yep. So that was a big performance coming off the maiden victory. We'll ask Brad about that, about why he made that choice to go into this race. Obviously, it was the right choice, but it was just impressive. He was one that you and I did a show earlier in the day where I kind of mentioned I felt like this horse was going under the radar. Yes. I felt like people weren't talking about him much.
14-1 or something?
Yeah, he floated up in the odds. And he ran huge. So this is one of those ones where, you mentioned, did we see the Derby winner yesterday or 2 days ago? Yeah. Did we see the Derby winner? This is one where I'm like, I'm not sure because I need to see more from this horse because he's still new to the Derby trail. I need to kind of see how he trains leading up to it. But if he ends up running well in the Derby, if he ends up winning the Derby off that performance in the Ruby, I won't be surprised. We've been touting for weeks how successful the Ruby has been in recent years. Yep. So I would not be at all surprised if he's a big player in this.
Especially in recent years, we would think of that Louisiana Derby, the added distance, the provenance of running in a historic race like the Louisiana Derby, but it's been the Ruby of those two races.
Yeah,
that's been far more predictive of high level success. Sees the Gray last year, of course, 2 fills a couple years back. We get the winner in Rich Strike, of course. It has been a weirdly predictive race for good success. Out of those top finishers, who do you like the most? And obviously, let's move Gambit out of the way. We know what he is. You think Mohawk could take a step forward, Flying Mohawk?
I think he could take a big step forward. Yeah. I do see that. I think he's still developing. You got to remember, he's only run before this race. once this entire
And
year.
you broke the news over the weekend that
Yeah.
he will in fact try the Derby.
Yeah, that right now the plan definitely is, I'm sure, there's that small possibility that, he could maybe end up in the American turf. But talking to Jason Worth and the other connections after the race, I'd say it's slim to none that they are not going to be in the Derby.
The road to the American turf next on bloodhorse.com.
No, exactly. But yeah, it definitely sounds like they're going to be there. He ran huge. I think there's definitely still room for improvement for him. Whether that's going to be on the dirt, we'll wait and see. His pedigree definitely points towards the turf.
Yep.
So whether he's going to be big in those races down the line in New York, like the Belmont Derby, the Saratoga Derby, and those kind of races, we'll see. But, we all thought this with Animal Kingdom about a decade or so ago, that he'd never run on the dirt before, and he was fine with it. So we'll see. Sometimes maybe this first chance on the dirt, maybe that'll end up being the right call.
Correct, right. And we all assume that we know everything about a 3-year-old before we actually let them get into that. That was our racing review. We want to remind you about our friends at the OBS sales, man. The seeds of success are planted in the spring, and nowhere do buds of talent bloom more than at the OBS April sale of 2-year-olds in training. 9 graduates from the OBS April have won grade 1 races since 2024. How about that? Including the Champagne and Hopeful Stakes, with the most recent being Cavalieri winning the prestigious Beholder Mile out west at Santa Anita Park. The 2-year-old source to the world is fertile ground for victories. See who blossoms next at the OBS Spring Sale, April 15 through 18. And a man I'm sure has been to the OBS sale many times, and we will welcome him in now, is trader Brad Cox. Joins us here on BloodHorse Monday. They're driving back from Louisiana. Are you in the car, Brad? And how, you're ruining this for me because I have a joke with Brad. Sean, you don't know about this yet. Whenever I interview young Brad Cox, I ask him, where are you and how far are you from a horse? I have a feeling you're very far from a horse.
I'm very far from a horse right now. I'd rather be in a barn right now than doing what I'm having to do, driving back. But things are going well.
How far into the drive are you?
Nearly home. So that's.
There you go.
How about that?
Okay.
A little horse racing. All right.
Yeah.
Got
an early start.
Well, hey, you had a heck of a Saturday, and we wanted to have you on because of that. So first off, congratulations. Hopefully everyone came out well. Let's go ahead. We'll start with the fun stuff, man. You get you get a Final Gambit. You get this kind of run. I'm not going to lie, Brad. I saw you turn your phone up a little bit so you can watch that stretch run again. I'm sure you're not tired of that. Just kind of walk us through the decision-making process to end up in that race, but also what you think his path is going forward.
Look, I mean, I thought his last run when he broke his maiden was impressive, given the fact he raced very greenly. He's a horse that, I think the best is yet to come. I really do believe that he's a nice horse that obviously distance isn't going to be an issue. Out of his last run, I pulled up his figure like the next day, and I was like, wow, they didn't really give me much credit for that race in regards to the numbers. And I thought, well, that's kind of discouraging, but I knew the horse was doing well. We were either going to end up in the Ruby or the Rushaway. I actually got a call late morning saying he wasn't going to be able to. He was going to be an AE in the Ruby, and then I was going to move him to the Rushaway, and then I got another call back saying he'd be in the body of the race. So we decided to go in the body. He obviously drew a decent post, and he ran big. He's put 2 big runs back to back from well off the pace, and once again, distance is an issue. A little bit of an unknown with the dirt. But we breezed him on it last fall. It led us to starting him on the turf, if that gives you any indication as to what he showed me on the dirt. But,
Sure.
Horses do change. They do improve. And, it might be this horse back last fall just didn't have a tremendous amount of early speed. But, he's always closed well in his races. And, excited about what he was able to do on Saturday.
Now, in his second race, he kind of sat a little bit closer to the pace. His other 3 starts, he's been kind of in that further back towards the back of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just his running style that he prefers to be back there, or is it just the way that those races have unfolded? Is that what you kind of see him doing?
Yeah, I think so. The one time he was somewhat forward at Turfway, he was really ranking the post parade too. He was kind of jumping all over the pony, wasn't acting quite right. Like I said, he's a green horse. I mean, he's mentally, he's not there yet. And I think that's a good thing for his development moving forward. I really do believe he's got a big future. And once again, distance isn't an issue, and he's just figuring it out. I mean, he's a young colt. Just has the 4 runs, and I think he'll improve as the year goes on.
You mentioned you were going to be okay having to run him in the rush away. Obviously, the 100 points qualifies him for the Derby. If he happens to go in the rush away, do you think he's more of like an American Turf type of horse? Go ahead.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he would be no Derby talk at all. The rush away was just if he didn't get into the Ruby, and we knew that was something that could happen. Look, it was one of those things where it was a decision that went back and forth. I was on the phone with the racing office throughout the morning trying to figure out where we were going to end up. And, obviously we ended up in the right spot. I mean, we could very easily, I told him if we draw 13 or 14, I don't think I want to be in the body, or I don't want to be in AE because I don't want to break from the 12 hole, which I'm not sure would have mattered a whole lot with him with, him not having a tremendous amount of early speed. So, it's kind of crazy how things work out. This is another instant where things just kind of fell into place and it worked out well for us. And here we are.
I don't want to assume, so I will ask explicitly, but I assume you are training him up to the Derby, yes?
Look, I think that's the plan right now. We're going to talk it over with the Prince Khaled's family, the Juddmonte team, and they'll make the final call. But I would certainly have to think, as long as he trains well over the next 5.5 weeks, that would probably be the play.
Well, how has he come out of the race in those first couple of days, and when do you expect him to make the move down to Churchill Downs?
He came out of it in great. He came out of it in great order. We're probably going to ship him over in the next few days, and once again start preparing him on the dirt, and see how things go.
A few minutes after the Jeff Ruby, the Louisiana Derby happens, and of course, life is funny. Brad, you happen to be in Louisiana, not at the Ruby, of course. Take us through. John Hancock comes around the turn. He's near the lead. Obviously, Built overtakes him there, but you've got another one in instant replay who's coming down the stretch. How did you take in that race, and how did you think your 2 runners ran there?
I thought John Hancock ran well. He didn't give in. Like you said, Built kind of overtook him. Well, he overtook Built late in the race to end up 4th. Did take some pressure from another horse early in the race. But overall, I think it was a solid run. I think he's going to be able to build off of it. Not sure where we're going to land with him. He's actually on his way to Churchill today. We'll get him home, get him to Churchill, and see how he's doing moving forward. Obviously we've got several 100-point races to run yet. So, he's in now. I don't know how things will play out. Probably be on the outside looking in over the next couple of weeks. But, we'll just kind of see how things go. Instant replay, I thought, put in a good run. He was right behind the winner, made a good stretch run and ended up 3rd. I thought I was proud of the effort. I thought he was a horse that was kind of flying under the radar a little bit. He showed up and he ran his race.
You mentioned the points or the way that sits right now. So take us into the mind of a trainer. You have 2 horses. You have John Hancock, who's got 35 points. You have Instant Replay, who has 25. Usually 40 is considered that safe zone to qualify for the race. So how do you analyze what to do next with them? You were successful with Tawny Port a couple of years ago, running him back in the Lexington Stakes to get those 20 points for the winner. Do you look at an option like that? Do you sit out and hope that the points just kind of work out as people drop out? Are you not even thinking about the Derby with these 2 anymore? Are you looking at other race options in general? Just kind of take us into the mind of a trainer coming out of a race like the Louisiana Derby.
I think, those 2 that came out of the Louisiana Derby, I think I'll nominate them to the Lexington. Not sure they'll end up there. I think, not to be just, I'm not trying to hide anything, but I just want to see how they come out of it first and foremost. And, kind of let them train for a week or so. And if, they gave us a feeling that they were ready to run back, and I guess it would be 3 weeks, we would entertain that and consider it. And, if the Lexington made sense for those 2 horses, it is a short stretch race. It's 1 mile and a 16th at Keeneland. So, I'm not certain that would be in the best interest of Instant Replay, but we've won the race, I think, 4 times. And I think we've won it in various ways between Tawny Port and Owendale and I think Encino First Mission. But, it is a race where I do think, as a rule, you want to be somewhat forwardly placed or close. So, we'll see.
Trader Brad Cox with us. This is BloodHorse Monday. Sean Collins, Louie, Rabaut hanging out with you. Not all bad, of course, at the fairgrounds on Saturday. Good cheer does what good cheer does. How did she come out? And I don't think I need to ask, but I assume we'll see her on the first Friday in May.
Yeah, very, very good. She's all class. I say it all the time. She's very easy to be around, very easy to train. Just classy filly, does her job and enjoys it, and always puts in a big effort. And 6 starts, 6 runaway wins. The further the better. We just gotta keep her happy, healthy over the next 5.5 weeks, and hopefully a good trip in the Oaks. And she's gonna be very tough.
Look, you've been around some of the very best fillies in our sport, between She Dares, the Devil, Monomoy Girl, all these kinds of trainees. At this point in her development, is she on that kind of level? Or are we talking about that kind of filly?
Yeah, I mean, I said the other day, someone asked me, they said, have you had a filly start out 6 for 6? And I don't think so. I don't think Monomoy lost, I believe it was her 4th start by a head. Felt like she was the best filly, but she didn't get it done. But yeah, I mean, look, she's been very, very good. I mean, obviously we need to win some grade 1s with her before we start, comparing her to some of those champions. And even Immersive last year started 4 for 4, and she's still undefeated. We're going to have her back in the barn very soon. So she definitely ranks up there. But to say she's one of the best we've had, obviously we need to add some grade 1s to her resume, and looking forward to giving her a chance, because we definitely think she's that caliber.
Well, coming up this weekend, you're going to have a couple of good horses running, including Tappan Street in the Florida Derby. How has he been since finishing second in the Holy Bull Stakes? How's he been training? And what do you think about his chances coming into the race this weekend?
I love him. I think he's a very good colt. I'm excited about, him stepping up. I think, we've given him time since the Holy Bull. I shouldn't say we've given him time. We just haven't run him. He's been training right along there at Payson Park. But, we're excited about giving him a chance. He's a good colt. I really believe that. His works have been very steady. Gallop out great. Looking forward to the challenge. It is a very good group of colts. And, I'm fine with the post. I went back and watched Forte this morning. I went back and watched Fierceness from last year. They both broke from the outside. I'm not, and if he wants to win a race, he's got to overcome the post, and they did. They overcame outside post, and we're hopeful that he can get a good trip, and he'll be right there.
Trader Brad Cox with us here on BloodHorse Monday. Sean Collins, Louie, Rabaut hanging out with you. We'll wrap up right here with this one here. Brad, you've made the decision to send Flood Zone after a win in the Gotham over to the UAE Derby. What went into that process? Is this just another the spoils of riches in your barn of just needing another 100-point prep spot, or was this more of an intentional with your ownership group there?
No, look, it's the owners. They wanted to give it a shot, and I'm all for it. The horse made it over there yesterday. Awesome. To Dubai in great shape. He looks fantastic. He had a good work Friday morning, and I'm excited about this horse. He's really he's obviously unproven around 2 turns, but he gave us indicate all the right signs. His last work and his last race that he stretch out. He's got a great mind, and he's doing well. I think pedigree wise he can handle the 2 turns, and hopefully he'll come out of it in good order, and we'll fly him right back to Churchill. All
right, Brad. Well, welcome back to Kentucky.
Thanks guys
so much for joining us on BloodHorse Monday. We will talk with you soon. Thanks, Brad.
All right, thank you. Bye.
But lots of good info there.
Yeah,
for sure. Sounds like everybody's on the Derby trail, which is great.
Yeah.
But it's interesting too to hear a guy of that level, right? That caliber, with that kind of selection of 3-year-olds, etc., horses, barn, whatever you want to call it. A horse like John Hancock and those, we don't quite know what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
It's just the puzzle that is trying to put together all those pieces.
Yeah. And, just kind of sitting back and let's see what happens the next couple of weeks. Let's see where we stand on the points board when this is all said and done. You have a couple races where it's a guarantee that there's going to be a couple more horses that get added to the leaderboard. But then you also look at a race like the Santa Anita Derby, where Journalism and Citizen Bull are already kind of clinched. And so if they take the top 2 spots, he's probably not going to get bumped down any at all from that race. So, you kind of wait and see where it goes, but just kind of keep an eye on the horse. If it looks like you might need the Lexington, you have them nominated there and just to give them that shot. If it looks like you might not need the Lexington, then they're already kind of halfway trained for the Kentucky Derby at that point.
Yeah, he just won with Encino, right? I mean, so it's a race that he's won with. He knows how to have horses ready for that. that Lexington. He mentioned that shorter stretch, which is interesting that he pointed that out because I've always thought that was Idiomatic's favorite spot. Was that mile and a 16 to get the lead, kind of float for him around those corners. Really, really loved it. And, it's interesting. The point talk this time of year lines up with when we talk about the bubble in college basketball, for example.
Yeah.
And that Derby bubble is a real thing, right? I mean, it is legitimate. It was like 38 points was the cut a couple years ago, and someone had 36 and they were running into Lexington and they needed to finish 4th and they finished 5th and all these kinds of things. Yeah. It does make for a very, very exciting time of year. Sean Collins, Louie Rabaut hanging out with you. Let's bring in Frank Angst as we move along with BloodHorse Monday here. Appreciate Frank jumping in with us here. And man, oh man, you've got a bunch going on here, but the April magazine is out.
Yeah. It feels like the March issue just came out, but things come fast this time of year, I suppose. And just like the racing season, I feel like the magazine on the racing side is heating up this time of year. So really good time of year to be a subscriber and take that deep dive. I mean, as I said previously, these are kind of our long form stories. They end up in the magazine, which is print version and an online virtual version as well.
Yeah, so Frank, of course, working on the magazine, all those other things. Head over to bloodhorse.com. You can check out all of the great coverage over there as well. You've got Cole Battle on the cover, which is how I know Frank is actually in charge. Anyone else chooses who's on the cover, I'm not sure. But if it's Cole Battle, I know it's Frank. I know you have that picture. There it is. What a beautiful thing. And I know we joke on this show, Frank, Sean and Frank, about, hey, get the paper edition, get that thing. Man, we were at Turfway on Saturday. I went to the window every time.
Yeah.
Right. You get a teller at the window. You get that, that track experience. Frank, it's so cool to be able to actually hold the magazine and actually get it.
Yeah. And then the landing on the cover is still an honor for so many people in the industry. And we appreciate that. Cole Battle, this is him winning the Rebel Stakes. And Eric Mitchell has a terrific Why It Worked column on the breeding of Cole Battle, which that's a regular feature in the magazine. You get to read about the breeding, what went into these top horses. It was always a thought, some breeder had, and then you see it take form like this. It's a spectacular feeling for those breeders.
And you have right at the top there a piece about jockey Flavien Prat. Obviously wins the Eclipse Award last year. Knocks Irad out of that spot that he had held, I think it was 308 years in a row.
Is that right?
Something like that.
Maybe 309, 310.
Something like that. But obviously Flavien Prat moves to the top of the sport last year as far as jockey, certainly with the graded stakes numbers and all those things. When you start talking names like Pat Day and Jerry Bailey and those kinds of names, you're in those very, very exclusive kinds of spots. I'm sure this was a cool piece to work on.
Well, first of all, it's a Jay Hovde piece. So, Jay could write about a new sewer system in Lexington, and I very likely read it. He's as good as they get. So when you put Jay on a story about a jockey, which if you follow Jay over the years, he loves to do stories on riders. And Flavien, of course, is at the top of his game right now. So it's just really puts the reader behind the scenes and really lets you see what drives him day in and day out.
And a Q&A in there with the new Jockey Club chairman as well, Everett Dobson, who got to do that one. And what's that one all about? Yeah,
so Lenny Schulman put that together. Lenny did a terrific feature on Everett a few years ago. So we came back with the Q&A after it was announced that Everett would take over as chairman of the Jockey Club, which will begin in August. And Everett's an Oklahoma guy. He's a co-owner of the Oklahoma City Thunder, who just the other day I heard someone picking them to win the NBA Finals this year. I don't usually pick up on the NBA till the playoffs start. That's kind of my level, but they're having a great year, it sounds like, and he's having a great year. He's an owner breeder, has had a lot of success, mastery, and he's also served on a lot of the industry boards and panels, the larger Breeders' Cup board, the TOBA board, the American Graded Stakes Committee, which is so important to rating our top races. So it's really looks like it'll be an exciting, we hate to lose Stuart Janney, but he's retiring, and really feels like Everett's looking forward to this new challenge.
I feel like people in Stuart Janney's generation just don't retire.
I know.
It's stunning. So it's nice to see someone actually stop working.
Good for you, Stuart. He's going to actually go and enjoy life a little bit. Go relax.
Right, yeah. Just go. It's okay, by the way. Just go hang out. Yeah, for sure. Frank Angst with us from BloodHorse and BloodHorse.com. And, of course, the magazine as well. Market Watch out obviously we're talking OBS, presenting this episode as well. Lots going on. When we get to the spring, what are we doing in Market Watch this month?
So Eric Mitchell's taken a deep dive look at the workouts, and Nicole Stafford helped out on that as well. Actually, she might have been the writer. I need to double check that. But yeah, it's just looking at what those workout times mean ahead of a sale, and they just look at how those horses have turned out. So it's a really good information for sure.
All right. And of course, we have to ask about the what's going on here section of the magazine as well. So, Rick, I ask you the important question. What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, just the longest running column at BloodHorse. And
that's right.
I just am honored to pen it these days, most of them these days. Once in a while, we have a guest writer do some of them. But, this month, it's just really a chance to stand back a little bit and look at the progress that has occurred on equine injuries. I mean, it was a record year for equine safety in 2024. Since they really started tracking these numbers 15 years ago, this is the best number, and it's less than half of what the rate was 15 years ago. I mean, it's always been a rare occurrence, but now it's twice as rare as what it was just 15 years ago. And I mean, I can't think of a sport in the world that has cut its injury rate in half in 15 years.
No. Yeah.
So it's a huge accomplishment that didn't occur randomly. Just a lot of people put a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of investment in this to make it happen, and to see it happening, it's really great for the sport. And I know there's more progress on the horizon. There's even more detailed looks at everything that goes on a race to find any small trends that are out there that can be improved. So it's really exciting to see that the industry's made this progress.
Well, and it's so exciting to see. And I get to hear these interviews, and once in a while I get to host them with the folks, maybe at the University of Kentucky, wherever it might be, that are working on these things all the time. And the level of sophistication of this technology is stunning. The number of movements per second they can detect. And if a horse is slightly off at its gait compared to last time it worked out, I mean, it is really, Frank, a substantial move with, we talk about analytics in other sports, the ability to analyze these workouts in a physical way with horses. It's going to change completely what we do.
Yeah. We've seen rule changes. I think getting anabolic steroids out of racing was a huge thing. That was, if you look at it, that was one of the biggest improvements from year to year after that occurred. That's been huge. The pre-race veterinary exams are just at an all-time level, and a lot of it starts with those vets have unprecedented information in their hands to begin with. So they really know where to focus their efforts as they go through that. And it's making a difference. Once early on in all of this, it was determined there's no silver bullet, unfortunately. Right. There's not a single cause of, in general, what's catastrophic breakdowns. There's not a single cause of that. So when it was determined that there was multifactorial, you really had to attack this from a lot of different angles, and the industry's done that. So it's really a big accomplishment for sure. And it's a rare subset of all this is cardiac incidences where unfortunately horses perish. But now they're digging more into that. And I think they have, I think there's a real chance they make progress on that as well. That's been a little bit elusive. So they're turning their focus there because it's an opportunity to make further improvements.
I know that if they can do the work on the joints and the legs of horses that they've done, they can certainly apply that to the chests of horses. We see it now in soccer. Those guys wear those heart monitors. Almost looks like a support system for their chest, but it has the heart monitors. And I'd love to think that we could do that for horses as well when they're working out, whatever it might be. Because if you can detect from workout to workout that there's an arrhythmia or something different going on with an equine athlete, certainly we can move it in the right direction with that. We always close with Frank Angst from BloodHorse.com, of course, with your NTRA poll and who you've got on the top this week. Reluctant, it felt like Torpedo Anna at the top last week, but where are you at this week?
Yeah, the overall poll, I kept Torpedo Anna in there. Newcomer in there, Touch Upon a Star.
Absolutely.
I mean, the horses run really good numbers, and obviously he had his way that day, but he went out and did it. He went out and beat, Sierra Leone is one of the top horses in the, Breeders' Cup Classic winner.
Oh, yeah.
So it was his day. I'm sure there'll be other days, but definitely had to reward that performance. It was something to see by the Louisiana bred.
It'll be interesting going forward with Sierra Leone, man, because that'll be interesting where they have to place it.
How do you analyze Sierra Leone's performance? Was it just him coming in off the layoff? Was it the fact that the race just didn't really set up for him? Where do you see where that ranks?
I mean, I have not interviewed the connections on any level, so this is just me speculating from afar. I mean, it just probably seemed like he needed a race, and it was, once it was a short field like that, it makes it a little bit difficult because you don't know that you're going to get that pace. Touch Upon a Star is very fast early. I mean, you just look at his performances however you want to watch it, by viewing his runs or just looking at numbers. He consistently gets out there front, and if nobody goes with him, he's if somebody does go with him, he's dangerous. But if nobody goes with him, look out. He's going to be tough to catch. Their goals are going to be toward the end of the year, the Breeders' Cup Classic, obviously. Yeah. So it's not like they had to come out there and absolutely had to win that race. They have more time than a 3-year-old. So I'm sure they'll look at the horse, and if everything's right with the horse, I think he'll still have his day. I mean, it's still finished on the board. He was a huge favorite, but frankly, the horse doesn't win a whole lot. That was a little bit, thought he was a little over bet, frankly, just because of the situation, an 1.25 mile race where he's guaranteed to get pace. It's a different story, but I think he comes back fine.
Yeah, it's interesting because we heard from the connections. Oh, he just didn't love Saratoga.
Yeah.
Guess where he's going to have to race this summer? I mean, it's really interesting, but he doesn't, the other thing that he doesn't have is the trip to a Saudi or to a UAE type of race. He didn't do those trips. So just this, okay, he hits the board. It's not a great, vintage Sierra Leone kind of performance. I think he's set up to be, at least workout wise and calendar wise, just fine the rest of the year.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, I think
that's where I'm at as well.
Yeah, I think he'll be okay moving forward. And frankly, he'll run into, like Frank said, bigger fields with more pace up the front that he can run into, et cetera, et cetera. So I think he'll be fine going there. Saudi Crown back this week. Didn't get to talk about him with Brad. We wanted to let him get out of the car and get back to his house. But that might be one that ends up in the NTRA poll for Frank Angst next week when we will talk to him next Monday. We'll have 2 more 100-pointers in the bag. Do you think your Cole battle gets it done? I know you're high on him.
I kept him atop the 3-year-old poll. That's still, I'm there with him. He feels like a horse of destiny to me. We'll see. I have Journalism Sovereignty 2 and 3. Very, very impressive as well. And they're knocking on the door for sure. Citizen Bull 4, and I put Tiztastic in at 5 off of that win. He certainly did it. The numbers aren't quite there like with some of these other ones. But he definitely likes the distance, which that's always a big question with these horses. So good to see for him.
Did you take much from the Ruby?
I mean, it's always hard to making that. How are these horses going to transition from the all-weather surface to the dirt? But yeah, I put that horse. Where did I put him? I put him 10th. Okay. So I had him crack the top 10 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the distance ain't the question with him, right? I mean, that's at least a real positive.
I mean, he probably ran close to another half furlong as wide as he was. So I mean, that's something. It's always hard for me to judge from the synthetics to dirt, though. I'll tell you one thing that'll be key is how he works at Churchill. I'll be paying close attention to that. I was lucky enough to land on Animal Kingdom his year, and that was a big part of it. Is I really liked how that horse ran on every surface, and then the workout that he had. I think it was 8 days before the Derby. It was enough for me. I was like, this horse is going to bring his same game. So if you get a chance to get to the track and watch that workout, or I know Churchill's really good at getting those workouts out there where you can watch them now. I would definitely tune into that and see how he looks.
There you go. All right. He's Frank Angst. Find him over at bloodhorse.com. And of course, with the magazine as well. Impress your friends. Get BloodHorse delivered to your house. How about that? Impress your friends. Is that the line we want to use? Impress your friends?
I think so.
Okay,
I would
all
be
right,
impressed
well,
if I showed up and you had it.
I agree with Sean Collins. All right, Frank, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. Frank Angst. He has the beautiful library and all the things over there at BloodHorse and BloodHorse.com, of course, for all of the great things here with our friends at BloodHorse. All right, we always do the previews here, and we are deep in the fun part of the Derby season where we get horses. If you win, congratulations. We'll see you here at Louisville in just a couple of weeks. Are you going to the Arkansas Derby this weekend? I always ask you this question because I imagine you've been to Oaklawn, but you're one of these guys. You don't mind being on the road for 8 hours.
No, I don't. Especially if you're driving to a Kentucky Derby preparation. Right. Drive back's not as fun once the race is already over.
You can hear that in Brad's voice today. He's just like, no, I'm done with this crap. Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like I'm not still 100% decided, but I probably will be there.
Okay,
on
all right.
Saturday,
Okay.
I would assume.
The Arkansas Derby and the Florida Derby, of course. The Arkansas Derby, some recent winners. We were talking right before the show, of course, between Mystic Dan and, of course, the Triple Crown winner himself, an American Pharaoh. Yes. But the Florida Derby itself, man, I think 28 historical winners,
somewhere around there.
Absurdly high number. Of course, Mage, the most recent winner to come out of that prep as well. But let's talk Arkansas Derby and who's going to be in that one. In fact, Cole Battle will be the favorite, almost certainly. And by the way, a deserved favorite.
But did you see? I think he's third choice on the morning line. That surprised me. You got Cornucopian as the favorite on the morning line, and then they had Sandman above him.
So
too.
I was just going to ask, is there a chance we get to the point this weekend where actually he's not the favorite because, we've got a shipper from Bob Baffert who has a huge speed figure on debut, this kind of stuff. You just answered my question. Can we get Frank Angst's favorite horse at like 4-1 on Saturday?
There's a possibility. I know a lot of people really seem to be latching on to Cornucopian. The thing that I think makes Cornucopian a little bit more unique from the typical Baffert horse running here at Oaklawn is the fact that he's already ran at Oaklawn. Yes, his maiden breaking win was here, so you already know that he likes the track, which usually the Bafferts do anyway.
Yes,
but
they love Arkansas. You're right.
But yeah, that gives you just a little bit extra bit of confidence. The part that concerns me is that race was 6 furlongs. Now he's stretching out to 1 1/8 miles second time out. It's not impossible, but when you see a proven horse like Cole Battle, when you see a horse like Sandman, who I feel like has been crying out for distance, who's been making those late runs, when you see just some of these more proven horses, and especially with Cornucopian breaking from the far outside, I'll be going against him. I don't know how you feel about that, but I was surprised to see Cole Battle third choice on the morning line.
Remarkable. I do think with Cornucopian, this feels like a leave out at your own peril for sure.
Yeah.
Because it's Baffert. The other part is the giveaway of Baffert horses for me is, are there timed 5 and 6 furlong works at Santa Anita for a Derby contender? To me, this is the Bob Baffert in the form giveaway. And the answer for him is yes.
Yep.
So he's working as far as his only race. That's an incredible thing to say. But when you see Baffert do that 5-6 kind of, he thinks he has something, I think you leave him out of your tickets at your own peril, or that you're trying to get value. And I'm not mad at you if you're trying to do that. Who is ahead of him then as a publisher and Cornucopian then?
Well, publisher, I think, is really interesting in this spot for sure. He hasn't really gotten the cleanest of trips in both of his attempts at the Derby Trail. He was 7th in the Southwest. He got moved up to 6th. The horse that impacted him that day that got disqualified was American Promise. You see how he came back and ran a couple weeks ago in the Virginia Derby. And then, also towards the beginning of the race of the Rebel, he kind of got shuffled back a little bit. We talked earlier about how that track was the track's been playing kind of close to the pace in a lot of these Derby preps at Oaklawn. He had to come from way out of it because of that. So I do think if you're looking for a price, I think he might get forgot about a little bit. I know a lot of people were on him in the last race. He runs 4th, so maybe they're getting off of him this race. Maybe this is the one. You just saw Asmussen do it with Tiztastic this week, so why not do it with Publisher as well? But yeah, the 2 ahead of Cole Battle are Cornucopian and Sandman on the morning line. What do you think about Sandman coming in this time?
I'm not mad about the Sandman part of this, and this I think is as much just that he did put in a good effort in the Rebel, and he was right there. I think people forget with how Speed King won the race, we forget that Sandman really did close into it.
Yeah,
he was right there at the end of the Southwest. That's exactly right. Sorry.
After that disastrous start.
Correct. And so I think he's right there. If Jose Ortiz can get him a slightly better, it's interesting they're moving to Jose Ortiz away from Christian Torres. I think that part's actually very interesting.
Yes.
And so that to me, maybe trying a little bit different tactics, because if you remember in that Rebel, he was off the screen behind the pack, and he still finishes third, almost wins the race, frankly.
Yeah.
And so look, Cole Battle's great, and I'm not worried about Cole Battle. I know what effort I'm going to get from him.
Yeah. He's going to show up. He's going to run.
Correct.
He's gonna do his best.
Yeah, that's right. I know what I'm getting from him. It's a Sandman that I don't know. Is he bored coming out of the gate? Does Jose Ortiz get him more interested in the race? Is that the change? Is that why we're trying something different here? Jose's been aboard the horse. In fact, he ran in the Iroquois back in September. But I think they're trying to make a change because they are not happy with what happened last time. They just too much work to do.
I could see that. And also, you think about the musical chairs of jockeys in the Kentucky Derby, where everybody's trying to find their Derby horse right now. Coming out of those last 2 races, it's probably an opportunity for Jose Ortiz, where if he doesn't really feel like he's settled on a Derby horse, let's try and get on one before we get to that point. Where we just kind of pick up who's left and who still needs a rider, and let's talk our way onto this horse for the final prep race. So I do think that's a very interesting move as well. Jose's coming off a fantastic meet down there at Fairgrounds, and he can ride anywhere.
Underrated story of 2024 was him moving his tack and just the absolute gangbuster year he had.
Yeah, he was
just a spectacular,
phenomenal.
yes.
He's been doing very well since moving out of New York. And the fact that he kind of picks out this horse, obviously I don't know the conversations that happened, but if they went out and they seeked this horse, I think that's a positive sign that he thinks this is really a good one.
I'm interested in a horse that's trying a full 2 turns for the second time here at Oaklawn. And that's Monet's Magic. This is a horse that early on debut, Ben Colebrook thought could go 2 turns and debuted him that way. Or he went 7 furlongs at Ellis, and then after that immediately moved to 2 turns. This horse, it took him a while to figure it out. Luan Machado in town to ride. One last time he was aboard, that was at Churchill over that mile and a 16th course we see all the time. So this horse has won at Churchill, finished a decent 5th in the Southwest. If he can take a step forward, Son of Good Magic, I think he's an interesting one to watch. They gave him a little bit of time off here so that the Derby would be second in the form cycle if he does qualify. I don't know that he wins, but I think he can absolutely hit the board and get enough points to get in the Derby here.
Well, you look at his maiden victory at Churchill Downs back in November, 2 other horses behind him, Burnham Square and American Promise.
Yep.
So he's got the right running lines. He just needs to put it all together on the big stage.
I think Monet's Magic is really, really interesting in that one. We'll head to South Florida. By the way, I'll have Brian Nadeau on Rabaut & Co. on ESPN 680 and 105.7 on Friday morning if you want to hear from him. He is the morning line maker, works on the simulcast down there at Gulfstream Park. Mile and an eighth, of course, in the Florida Derby, one of the great predictors of good success in the Kentucky Derby. Return of sovereignty.
Yeah.
And I know that Frank's holding on, wants Cole Battle to be at the top. I think there's a very good chance that actually next week he's going to tell us he has sovereignty at the top.
Yeah, there's a pretty good chance. You saw last time they didn't really think he was going to win the way, they were kind of getting in off the layoff, the way the track layout was with the mile and a 16th, and he won anyway in the Fountain of Youth Stakes. So the fact that he's coming back here, now he's going to get the full length of the stretch, that mile and an eighth at Gulfstream. It's not going to be that first wire this time. And so he's going to be able to kind of stretch out a little bit more when he's making that late run. If he was that impressive off the layoff when he wasn't supposed to win, now that he's a little bit more cranked up, how impressive is he going to be?
It's a great question. It is an interesting field as well, because you get a Matticat Road. We don't always see Baffert's shipping to South Florida. I joked with Brad earlier in the show about, hey, did you have to ship to the Middle East to avoid one of your own horses? He laughed about it, but I kind of meant it. But of course, it's a connections driven thing, not a connections driven here thing. This is just him having a lot of very, very good horses. What do you think of a Matticat Road in this spot?
I like him. You usually see, I feel like speed usually plays pretty well at Gulfstream. And I feel like a lot of times, especially here in the Florida Derby, we look for, okay, now it is the longer stretch, like I just mentioned with Sovereignty. And so we're expecting the closers to really kind of kick it in. But then it's the horses that are up front that just kind of hang on for the entirety of that stretch run. So I think he's going to have a little bit of work cut out from him. You see a horse like Neo Equos down on the rail, or Neo Equos, I'm not exactly sure how to say that one. But you see him down on the rail. He's going to definitely show some speed, I think, from the inside. And it could set up for someone like Sovereignty. But I do think he's got a pretty live shot here. And Tyler Leone gets aboard. He knows Gulfstream very well.
That's the thing that I think is really fascinating. We don't see that Baffert Leone thing very often. They're just on opposite sides of the Mississippi River, essentially, right? It's just, I do think that's a big positive. Is that he knows that course so well. I remember years ago being at Gulfstream on like a Thursday, and watching every horse on the morning line that was a Tyler go from 8 to 1 to 7 to 5, just over and over. And so it is interesting to see him in that spot. You bring up Neo Equos, who's going to be on the inside and get the lead, I imagine. That means that Mattakit Road and Tappan Street are probably going to be right there behind him.
Yeah.
And then Sovereignty is going to have to do his running later. So good news for Sovereignty. He's going to have something to run at, like a lot to run at, frankly. Bad news, I think Tappan Street's ready.
Yeah, it sounded like it talking to Brad.
He's pretty excited.
Yeah, he sounded
But
pretty excited.
Second, last out in that Holy Bull behind Burnham Square, who we thought in that race, by the way, ran the best race of the weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. So to finish second there, first time ever trying 2 turns, this horse just fired a bullet at Payson. I'm just saying, I think he's ready. I think he's going to be right there. Louis Size is on fire right now. This sets up in my case that I think he's going to be fine. I think we're going to have a 3-way finish here in the Florida Derby between Sovereignty, Tappan Street, and Mattakit Road. I think it's going to be awesome.
I think it's going to be awesome too. But yeah, I definitely think Tappan Street has a phenomenal chance in this race. It could set up perfect for him. You look at a horse like Sovereignty too. He's already in the gate. So if it's coming down the stretch, there might be some question, how hard are we really going to push here? We already know he's in the Derby, doesn't need the points. So let's just, let's make the run, make sure that he's all set to go. That could potentially lead to, if a horse like Tappan Street, where if he gets the jump on Sovereignty early and can tackle Mattakit Road as they're coming off the turn, I think that gives him a great shot to win.
It's interesting as well, because I think Sovereignty's all in on this one, and here's why. I think when you put grade 1
that is true
next to a race and the owner is Godolphin, I think they're cranked.
Yes.
I think that's just how it works. And then you hope you win the Derby. I don't think anyone assumes they're going to win the Derby, even if they have a horse of the quality of Sovereignty.
Yeah.
But if you could pick off a grade 1,
go for
you
it.
do it. That's exactly right. Because remember last year with Sierra Leone, he ran in Louisiana. They wanted a grade 1. They wanted to be in the Bluegrass. Right. So they got up here and they ran in the Bluegrass for that purpose. He wins the race, etc. I think Sovereignty is going to be totally turned on for this one.
Well, then that's going to make the race even more
better. That's exactly right. So there you go. And a reminder too, we were presented today by our friends at the OBS sale. They continue to be that 2-year-old source. 9 graduates from the OBS April sale have won grade 1 races since 2024. Just alone. The most recent, of course, Cavalieri winning that prestigious Beholder Mile out west. The April sale will be held April 15 through 18. The Undertack is set for April 6th through 11. Go check them out. A bunch of great resources. And of course, you can always check out the sales part of bloodhorse.com. Olivia Newton and all the folks, Newman, and all the good folks over there banging away for us here at Bloodhorse and bloodhorse.com. By next week, we are going to know somewhere in the vicinity of probably half the field for the Kentucky Derby.
Yes.
That's a pretty cool thing to be able to see and say. What's that?
Getting close.
We are getting very, very close. Obviously, we'll talk Arkansas and Florida Derbies next weekend. We'll get Sean's take, if he does make the trip, which he will, down to Arkansas as well. I'll be at the Wood Memorial the weekend after. You'll be at the Bluegrass, and so we'll be able to give our perspectives from those as well. And then Sean and I will be out there for the Lexington as well, setting up the next couple of weeks before, and then it's 2 weeks to the Derby draw, and then I don't see my family for a while.
Yeah,
right.
that starts for me right about now.
Yeah.
Brad mentioned that he's going to be getting his horses in here probably this week, so that's the start of me showing up at Churchill every morning at 5:30 for the next month.
Yeah, you enjoy that, all right? I'll do radio at 10
Best
o'clock.
Time of year.
Well, there you go. He's Sean Collins. I'm Louie Rabaut. This has been another edition of BloodHorse Monday. Thanks for starting your week with us. We'll be back next Monday on the end of March show here on BloodHorse Monday. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the week. The Blood Horse is dedicated to the improvement of thoroughbred breeding and racing for over 100 years. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and save Blood Horse Monday on all your platforms. For the latest news, analysis, and insights, visit us at bloodhorse.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.